Walk out the spotlight.
Before we get to this, I just have a few comments. First, to thank Stein and am I in there?
No, you're just.
Um, yes, for me, those were personally wonderful days when we were side by side on the third floor. One of the first things I don't know if you remember this, but the Vice Chancellor of Administration's office abutted the conference room, the 302 conference room. So we had the first Dean's Council that I was invited to as Vice Chancellor. And I went in and sat at the table and, since I was right there in the adjoining suite, and then Stein came in since he was just a few feet away. And you politely tapped me on the shoulder and said, you don't sit at the table. You don't sit with the deans.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, the vice chancellors do not sit with it. So that was my learning that there was a different hierarchy at the university than I was used to at the city government, but it was, we were able to collaborate on a lot of things together, when we were in those roles, including, just as I was walking up the pathway, the bridge here, Broadway Euclid Bridge, we worked together with the student government. And back when I was city manager, we committed funds and then got the student government to consider committing funds to the project, and we got it built. And, I think of things like that really so meaningful. And then we did so many projects, capital construction projects together. And Giff, you were so fundamental in several of those projects, working hand in hand with Paul Leaf and Phil Simpson and Rochelle and the team in planning, design, and construction to get those projects done. So my history, yes, from the city of Boulder to the university, and it was while I was vice chancellor that Phil DeStefano asked me to consider going on the Via Mobility Services board. Back then, we were called Special Transit. And for several reasons, I kind of wish we hadn't rebranded, but we did. I went on the board in 2009 when I was vice chancellor here, and then we started doing a variety of things at Via. As Dine said, I'm currently the CEO. I started my 10th year as CEO for Via recently. I was on the board again as a representative of the university back then. But we rebranded in 2012 after a year of considering various names and chose Via Mobility Services, which was fine. But just a little side note, we didn't realize that 6 months later in New York City, a private company was formed called Via Transportation, Inc. that was mainly routing software, but went on to become like an Uber, Lyft operation for transit. And they are, because they don't employ people aside from tech people, they don't employ drivers, they have contract drivers, and they don't have a facility like we do out on 63rd Street that they have to cover overhead for. They're able to bid very, very low for contracts for micro transit. So we are a nonprofit public transit corporation. And yet, because of the increased competition in the market, we have to compete. We have to look at requests for proposal, and we have to bid competitively. And in many cases, we're able to do that just fine. But with the other Via, as I call them, it's hard to compete when they don't have fixed costs the way we do. So that's a challenge for us going forward. But we're doing a variety of things that I wanted to share with you today. And to Margot's point, there are some things that I think maybe with a little push from several of us around the table and in the community, the university might consider what we've tried to start doing together, but I'll get there. This picture is our facility that we built back in 2010 out at 63rd, and then the road turns onto Butteville Road down to Western Disposal, and the Butte is just facing us to the north here. And there's a 4.25 acre parcel just to the north of this, our existing building that I'll show you a schematic for, that comes very much into the picture when we talk about what are we doing for sustainability and that sort of thing. So, but again, taking a step back, Via Mobility Services, we were founded in 1979 primarily as a paratransit or assisted transportation provider. And what we do is door through door. So we don't drop someone at the curb or take them to a zone or a fixed stop. We go door through door for them. And we recently did some surveying of our riders, and about 80%, that's a mix of, 60-40, but either need the service to be door through door exactly that way, or they really do prefer it because they are limited. So 80% of our riders prefer our door through door approach. In September, our board decided that we would go fare free. Now, of course, that doesn't mean there's no cost. We're not rolling in dough, but we realize that 70% of our riders are living on $30,000 or less. And it's usually less, 70%. And our ridership has gone from 130,000 trips a year. And then we entered the Denver Metro with our paratransit in 2020. So it's about 200,000 trips a year overall. And again, most of those people really can't, they're having to choose between that trip to the doctor, maybe even dialysis, grocery shopping, let alone to the salon or senior center. And we're trying to make that a little easier for them by going fare free and trying to do that, cover that cost, which is about a loss of about $50,000. Try to cover that in our fundraising. But again, we built this building in 2010. Perfect. Okay. And as I say, we're a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. That was our first vehicle. It was a bright orange school bus. I don't know how they did securement of wheelchairs back then, but that's what we had. I like this slide. I actually presented to a couple of our new employees this morning. The way to look at this is the left side is how we were founded, paratransit. And when we say mobility options, that just means we'll help people and families decide how, if someone has to give up the car keys, they still want to be independent as possible. So we're going to help them do that. That's mobility options. And then there's our paratransit that's 46 years old, 45 years old. We don't need to make money on this side of the ledger. We just need to break even. That's our goal here. We can even lose a little bit of money. We have lost money in the past. On this side is traditionally, let's say, our traditional nonprofit side. The right side is our earned income contract side, where we look more like a for-profit. Even though we're nonprofit, the dollars stay here. We invest in our facility, and I'll tell you about our microgrid. We just got our bids for that. But we have the HOP is our major contract for us. We just had to rebid that. The city put that out to bid. We had to rebid that, and we're hopefully days away from a public announcement. I don't know if they're going to publicly announce, and we do Flex Ride for the Regional Transportation District. We used to have 50% of the Flex Ride service. Now we have all of it. We used to have 20% of Access-a-Ride for RTD. We lost that 2.5 years ago. Don't know why, but it happens.
What is a Flex Ride?
Flex Ride is a neighborhood flexible shuttle. So anyone could ride that. School kids, people going to work, people going to a park and ride. It's a variety of things.
Is it on-demand service?
It is on-demand service, and it's to try to help RTD avoid more fixed route, large bus fixed route. And hopefully you'll see a picture of that. It's a body on chassis, so it's like our Via buses. It's what it looks like. It just says Flex Ride on that. And again, we're a vendor for RTD there, so we had to be very competitive in that bid. But on this side, all these contracts, we need to make money. So we can cover all of our costs. We have 2 facilities. We have our Boulder facility, and then we have one in Western Adams County, which is just east of I-25 and 58th Avenue. It's a nice 5-acre site with a building that we own and we can invest in. So 2 locations. We operate our paratransit in 8 counties up to the Wyoming border. We even go to the Veterans Admin Hospital in Cheyenne occasionally, and sometimes take folks from there down into Anschutz or into Loveland. We operate Ride Free Lafayette, the Lions Flyer, just a variety of these shuttle type operations, and continue to try to grow this. The county will be soon putting out an RFP, request for proposals, for a shuttle for Gun Barrel to connect with the transit centers here in Boulder. We're going to bid on that. I think we have a better chance than some of the other contracts where we have competed against the other VIA. But again, this is interesting because it just explains our corporation, our nonprofit corporation. Break even on paratransit, maybe lose a little bit of money, make money, cover overhead, invest in the facility, invest in the community, and pay better than living wages. We pay very well. And we also train young people to be mechanics, technicians. So that's,
Yeah, can I?
yes,
question
yeah, please.
On this chart. On the right-hand side, I see nothing that says City of Boulder, Boulder County, Denver, Broomfield. I see Weld County.
Yep.
That's the only public, political entity on there. The rest look like nonprofits. Am I
Well,
correct?
no, that's our oversight. Like, for example, the Lions Flyer, Ride Free Lafayette, those are issued by Boulder County.
We are.
So
Okay.
they put out the RFP that we competed against. The HOP, City of Boulder, Flex Ride, RTD. Carbon Valley are the cities of Firestone, Frederick, and Dacono. Again, we had to compete. The Climb is City of Boulder. The Eldo Shuttle is Boulder County. Group trips, that just varies. The Lions Flyer, as I said, is Boulder County. Majestic Commuter is down in Green Valley area. So it's between DIA and Montbello neighborhood. And it's a business park, basically. And we're connecting the A-line light rail to the business park with a relatively new shuttle.
Is the Hop to Chautauqua only for the music festival or what?
Yes, Hop to Chautauqua is just the music festival. Park to Park, the third bullet on the right, from the bottom, that's City of Boulder, that's for Chautauqua, and that's summer shuttle, so parking isn't overwhelmed at Chautauqua. And to this point, CU has allowed parking at was it Lot 308? I don't know if that'll continue, but we'll see. And then Weld County is only a couple of years old for us. That's still new. Was probably why we annotated it as Weld County, and that's paratransit. But everything else is combination of paratransit, microtransit, meaning shuttles, and Littleton. Yeah, we even serve the city of Littleton with a non-emergency medical transport from our Denver location. It's best to serve from there, and that's the problem. You don't want to get too far afield with service. Now, in terms of our fleet, we're trying to convert to electric vehicles, and I want to put a slash there and say hydrogen. Maybe we're working with another nonprofit called New Day Hydrogen. They're really actively trying to get the first fueling station other than NREL. NREL has one. But a commercial fueling station in, and then we would try to get some vehicles. Maybe we would start with the Toyota, is that Mirai? I think it's a Mirai. And use that for our small, lower volume trips. But the HOP, we bought 3 electric vehicles, and we bought these with the city 3 years ago from a company called Proterra. It was Proterra, New Flyer, and BYD, which was a Chinese company that RTD had bought 16th Street Mall shuttle buses from. They weren't thrilled with it, so the city decided, we're going to go with Proterra. Proterra then abruptly went out of business about a year later, which has been really rough because we can't get software updates. We can't get parts very easily, although there are so many transit entities around the country that are dumping their Proterra buses. So we just got 6 from Des Moines. We're just not allowed to put them on the route, but we can cannibalize them for parts, and we did that. And so we're gonna keep our 3 Proterras on the route and rolling right by the building here
Why couldn't you keep the buses on the routes?
because of parts that failed.
So they weren't functional.
Right, yes, I'm sorry, they weren't functional, so parts issues, software updates, things like that, frustrating elements, like if you could just get someone from the company that would do the software update, like Zaya was just helping us with our technology, it would be back on the road. But no one, there wasn't anyone there to be there. So if it's parts, we can do that. Software, we're trying to cobble it together. We have a company we're working with out of Frederick. The CEO used to run Lightning e-motors in Loveland, and we converted our first hop bus to our 2004 Gillig diesel to the first battery electric here. We did that with our own money with Lightning, and then they went out of business. But they have this new company that we're working with, and now the city just bought with us 7 new battery Gillig battery buses, battery EV hop buses. The first 4 are scheduled to start rolling in after Thanksgiving, and they're really nice buses. And Gillig's been around for 130 years, so we're hopeful that they may be a bit more stable.
Yeah, when you say electric buses, what kind of mileage? How many miles?
About 130 miles to a full charge.
Yeah.
So plenty for the hop route, the hop circulator. And we're also converting our VIA paratransit buses slowly. We have 7 battery electric VIA buses, and we hope to do that by 2035. We'll make the deadline for that self-imposed deadline to convert the hops to electric by 2030. At the end of the year, we should have 10 fully operational, with the exception of the Proterra. Are they going to be stable? But that's the plan. And we just put in additional transformer capability and a switchgear and new charging stations for all the new buses. So we're going to be very able to go mostly overnight charging for the hop buses, and some no on route charging for the VIA buses. Those buses will have about a 200-mile range, so not too bad, but we might have to swap out, during the day, depends. And then
When you swap out, are you swapping out vehicles or batteries?
Vehicles. Yeah. We received a grant from the Colorado Department of Transportation, and it's a division called the Clean Transit Enterprise, CTE. We just got an award late last year to build a microgrid, a solar microgrid at our Boulder location. And we just got our 3 bids, or got 3 bids in late yesterday to start building that in 2026. And the idea there, and I have some numbers as we go further here, is that's kind of small. But our overall goals are to reduce emissions overall and to have 100% zero emissions by, let's say, by 2035. That's the entire fleet goal. Some of that depends on supply chain. Will the vehicles be available? We know they're much more expensive. Those hop buses are just under $1 million a piece. And when we were buying the diesel versions, it was about $430,000. So quite a considerable premium. And then again, you don't always have to do charging 1-for-1 if you've got enough charging stations, and we do now. But that's our concern, is will there be assistance? Will there be federal funding assistance to continue to move in this direction. State assistance, things like that, where we're not so sure. This is a kind of an overall schematic of what the microgrid can look like for us. This is our existing building here. And this building houses the maintenance shop. This is most of the admin is in here, and then also in the Denver location. So we have solar currently on this building and on this part of the building. This will be new. This will be the next piece. This is where we park the hot buses. You can see some of the orange peeking out there. And then the additional over a south parking area and the south part of our yard, that's another version or another phase. This is what the first phase would look like. Again, just that hop segment and the new segment here, but that's enough to take our building off grid entirely in terms of our utilization. And or as we kind of swap it out, or power our charging needs with our projected capacity of the 10 hop buses and the 7 battery electric via buses for a couple of days without, loss of the battery power. So we're doing a lot of engine, and as we develop this microgrid, and we'll have more certainty about what we're able to do. But we're adding 500 kilowatts of battery electric storage, and it's for peak shaving and for resilience. What do we mean when we say resilience? Well, we know that when we have those very windy days, now Xcel may turn off power. In Margot, in our neighborhood, last year, 12 days of power loss. Not always wind related, but we'll be able to, for some period of time, continue to operate just on battery. We also have a generator. It's natural gas, but we can operate, which means we can serve people. If there's a wildfire component as well with that wind event, we're going to be responding. We're a second responder. And again, these are things the other VIA or Transdev, which is a French conglomerate, that they don't do. We just show up. We don't ask for payment. We just do it as part of the community. We open our building after the King Soopers shootings. We opened the VIA building as a crisis response center. The families were able to come and meet with law enforcement, with the FBI there for 2.5 weeks. And we just do that. So our facility is kind of more in the public realm, even though we're a private nonprofit. So we're trying, and I have a brochure that lists our community benefits on the back that I'll leave with you. But this is what we're really excited about right now, is building this. And again, it's easy to forget how many events we've had just in the last few years, even going back to the flood event in 2013. We show up, our drivers are trained, and we are part of the Boulder County Office of Disaster Management now. And we get deployed as they need us to be. Mainly it's just to evacuate people and pets, that sort of thing. But we can bring them to VIA if we needed to. We can set up cots. Again, we can do a variety of things as a.
Anyway, that list is why our real estate insurance has gone up rapidly. Yeah.
I was watching a YouTube video about the mountain towns and how, first of all, the real estate market is really hurting, but one of the reasons is because of the insurance costs, because of their proximity to wildfire threat. And we sure have the same.
And it seems you can find fewer insurance companies willing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Insure.
Now, at the beginning, I mentioned that property across the street, the 4.25 acres across the street from us. This is a schematic that we did. We, via the city of Boulder and CU Boulder, did about 2.5 years ago with a company called Stantec. You probably know them. GIF. They do a lot of work with CU. And what it's showing is a battery electric vehicle maintenance and, let's say, apprenticeship training center as well, that we would operate jointly via Mobility Services and CU Boulder. The Boulder Valley School District would probably do some charging during the day at our site, but because they have their service center down the street, they don't really need to do anything here. But 60% of the site would be CU, 40% would be us. We'd reconfigure our existing building and site to better to maximize our utilization of the site for the hop, for any other fixed route that we might get, because RTD is pretty fond now of saying the R in RTD is regional, not local, which may mean that at some point they expect the local governments to take over more of the local routes, like the Skip is a good example. That doesn't leave the city. At some point, RTD is likely to say, City of Boulder, we'll give you a little bit of money to operate this thing, but we don't want to do it anymore. It's on you. So we could house all of that in electric format here, and the university would move the Marine Street facility, such as they are, over here and have a building, and we would likely either subdivide the site and sell that portion to the university, however they would best need it. The price tag to build this is about 100,000 square feet of space and technology and additional charging and what have you, is anywhere from $50 to $80 million. So that price tag has scared everyone. But my point there is, it's not about the site. If CU had the opportunity to build over in, off Arapahoe and 38th Street, say some of that land, those buildings, became available and CU could demolish and build there, you'd still face a big price tag to do it on your own. Here, we could do it together and try to go after whatever funding we could and try to even fundraise for it if it's possible. But we would do this together and again, be training new technicians, new mechanics on electric and hydrogen technologies. And everyone's excited about it, except for the price tag, because you guys have been part of the capital construction process on campus long enough to know that when you get in front of the president's office and then the Board of Regents, if it's not fulfilling an academic purpose or student life purpose, it's hard to justify. Someone once said to me when I worked for the city of Fort Collins, we were building a city building, it's boxes for bureaucrats. It's hard to justify spending 50 to 70, $80 million on a facility, a maintenance facility, when, well, we have one at Marine Street. Is it good enough for the next 5 years? Kick it down the road a little bit, but my hope is that the new chancellor, being so interested in sustainability, might actually become enamored of this idea. And again, the notion of federal money in it maybe is less likely these days, but is it possible with the right backers behind this kind of an idea to go after some high-end donors? It just for the CU side, perhaps, we'd be on our own to perhaps figure it out. But when this site sat vacant, Western Disposal used to own all of this, and we got a very good price, the discounted price, to buy it for our operation back in 2008 and 9. But that site they sold to Boulder Nissan, and Nissan was going to do a used car sales and prep lot, and that sat vacant for years, and then finally decided, nope, we're not doing it. Meanwhile, I had been bending Stu Wright's ear every few months to say, well, they donate it to us. Can I get that land? And I gave him the vision, which is this joint CU via city, counties, and Stu loved it. So I think he was putting the seed in Boulder Nissan's ears, like, if you're not going to use this, let's put it on the market, let's get rid of it. So we jumped on it, got it under contract, and our board went for it. We had no debt at all, so we took a mortgage on our site to buy this. So we would have it it was under contract 5 times before Nissan. And they were always gonna be storage boxes. That's what was gonna show up there, storage, warehouse, that would have just really hurt every day to be looking at that across the street instead of something really functional that's gonna help us meet our goals. But this is the plan for us. And that's just another view that shows, again, our existing building, and it shows the new solar carport for the hop as well. It doesn't show the other elements. We just a couple of days ago, the university installed an air monitoring station right here on our site, and Shelley Miller is doing a project to monitor coal fly ash, the impacts of coal fly ash. And we're in the right spot because it's the XL property just to the east of us. And so they just got that built yesterday or installed yesterday. And we're excited that we're able to help. I was coming back from a meeting late in the summer, and there's Shelley Miller walking down the street with a big floppy hat on, and she's like, I was trying to find you. So we connected, and again, collaboration is in our blood, whether it's the microgrid, this project that we'd like to do. We're doing the bus ride for CU now, the late night ride. We used to do, back when I was at the city, we used to do the late night hop, which was always interesting. But the late night bus ride is with a transit van. It's going very well. A lot of students are using it, and it's just growing leaps and bounds. The university wants to even do a paratransit service for students that either have a permanent disability or an injury or something like that to help them better get around. So we're hoping that is maybe something we do in the new year. But, at some point, I think the question would even be asked, should the university be in the transit business at all? Should we just operate the bus system for CU Boulder, especially with maybe some ownership of the site for CU? So there's skin in the game for CU if we can get to that point, make it a very attractive deal for CU. Maybe we get the contract for the buses and they get the land. Tim?
So you talk about an apprentice training center?
Yes.
Couldn't that include CU students?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So there is a real connection there in terms of
Yeah.
classroom activity.
Yeah. I came to the Masters of the Environment last Wednesday night. I know it was Tuesday and Wednesday, I think. I came Wednesday night, and so to meet like career speed dating basically, and tell students that are graduating with that degree or obtaining that degree about VIA and what kind of opportunities there might be at VIA. And I've got two young ladies that are coming in a couple of weeks for follow-up. And I've introduced one to the city manager and to the chamber president, but she's coming out, and I'm hoping to get her as an intern, in our office to work on the microgrid with us. So there's a bunch of things we can do. We also had 20 high school students from Broomfield, Fairview, and Boulder in last Friday to talk about careers and that sort of thing. So for students that don't want to go the college route, yeah, maybe we have a program with another nonprofit called CareerWise Colorado. And that's how we placed our first apprentice, was through that program. He was going to Boulder Tech during the day, I think it's called Apex now, on Arapahoe, and then coming to work with us in the afternoons. He got his diploma, and then we hired him, and now we're helping him go back to Front Range to get a business associate degree, and he's off and running. So yes, I'm hoping it can be a variety of apprentice opportunities.
I would think you could get some actual engineering students
Yes.
as part of a laboratory experience.
Yep. Because we're always going to be doing some unique projects, whether it's the microgrid. The microgrid is probably going to be at least 5 more years in different phases. The first phase will go pretty quickly, but then we'll want to continue trying to develop it. This work with Shelley Miller, I know we can expand opportunities there. we're doing some work with Excel on groundwater monitoring on our site as well, because of the location of the Valmont Butte and the old uranium mine and the Excel plant. So there's a lot of things that we get to do together that would be wonderful. We had this relationship, a tighter relationship with CU. So we want to get more help on the microgrid, want to get something going on this site. Shelley was going to mention it to the new Vice Chancellor of Sustainability. I think it's Andrew Mayock.
Yeah.
And see if that was a pathway to the chancellor, because trying to get the chancellor's ear, I know would be on something like this would be very difficult, you know, getting on his schedule for that. But it's exciting times. I mean, I've been there 9+ years, and I feel like, boy, we've got a lot of things we've still got to do, and trying to lay the groundwork for succession, because I'm older vintage, and you know, I just got to get my eldest son just started here as a freshman, and I suspect he's going to be a dean someday because he's lecturing me a lot. So I think he's gonna.
Okay, I've got a very practical question. A few years ago, when we put in solar panels on our house, okay, 4.3 kilowatts, not 500, small. We asked about a battery to go off the grid. And the advice we got from the company that installed the solar panels is, don't do it now because the price of batteries is going to go down rapidly.
Right.
So my question to you is, what is your experience with the price of batteries? And what do you see in the near future in terms of capabilities, price, etc.?
I think we are seeing, in terms of the latter, capability for a smaller battery square footage or space is getting better, is improving. I don't think prices changed a lot yet. So that's a little bit of problem. And then there's a little bit of a demon in the room, and it's a reliability. Teslas, Leafs, all the other vehicles, very stable. Electric buses have not been very stable. CU's own experience with the Canadian New Flyers, just in the maybe 2 years that CU's had them, has been about 50% operability. So they're down about 50% of the time, which is close to what we've felt with Proterra. Now we're hoping that we're moving through a time of basically research and development on the road, and that it's going to get better, it's going to be more reliable, and that these Gilligs we're getting will be more reliable, and that the price will come down. But again, we're still looking at about $800,000 per big 40-foot, 35-foot bus. So the battery is still a big part of that element in terms of that
I
price.
think the problem is big batteries or little battery or all batteries.
I think all batteries, because I think as they improve the technology and the batteries themselves can be smaller, and therefore you can pack much more range into the same footprint, you know, but if the price is staying up there, it's going to be harder to get to that point. And people are converting their personal vehicles, but it's harder with a fleet. Miami-Dade purchased 120 Proterras a few years ago, obviously before the fall. And they're sitting, you can Google this, they're sitting in a yard in wherever in Miami-Dade, not being used because, again, they can't get the part they need. It might be a small part, a capacitor, or if we waited 9 months for a part like that.
That many buses, can't they cannibalize their own buses?
They can do that. I wonder if they're going to start doing that. Maybe for a while they were thinking it'll get better. The supply chain will, you know, it'll perk up. Phoenix, which was the successor to Proterra, they had high hopes, but they just haven't clicked. They're still in business. A few weeks ago, like around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, one of our mechanics came upstairs with this guy, and he said, "Oh, he's looking for you." he was from Phoenix and he was there to help. But we had asked for him 6 months prior. He hadn't called and say, well, I'll be there. You know, I'm gonna be a little late,
6 months.
6 months. So my point is, the costs are still high on even the final product and the materials like the batteries. And the reliability on the bus side hasn't been there yet. But we're still investing and not hoping. Hoping is a goofy thing to say in business, even a nonprofit business, but we are in it for the long haul to ride the torrent that we're in now and try to get to smoother waters as the technology becomes more reliable, hopefully with Gillig. Fort Collins has been running some Gillig. Vail has been running Gillig electric, and they've been good, stable. So
Gives the reliability of the batteries, the electric motor, or the connection between the two.
oh, you're onto it. It is the connection very often between the two. We just did some work trying to retrofit one of the charging stations with Ford Warner. They claimed that this was their thing. Well, now they decided to get out of that business after they did ours. And it's not been sturdy. It's been the kind of thing where, if I would have to come in and plug and unplug this laptop 5 times to get it to take, we're having to do that with one of the
Okay,
bus.
Toyota has been making hybrids.
Hybrids, yes.
20 some odd years. I'm
Yes.
driving one that's 21 years old. And plug-in hybrids. And
Yeah.
my experience over the years, there's completely reliable.
Yes.
So what is it that the automobile companies are doing right in terms of connecting the
Yeah.
batteries with the transmission?
Which is
An automobile that you're seeing wrong on a bus.
right. And yes, you would think, because my gut reaction has been to say, why didn't we politically go hybrid buses? But would it really have mattered much? Because you're still talking about a battery. And you're right, you're still plugging in the vehicle. What we're hearing is that the vehicle, like the car vehicle format, plugging into your home outlet or your garage
Yeah,
has been very stable.
it's very stable. That's my experience.
But go ahead.
No, it's a surprise that I don't understand, but, I mean, they are different plugs for different vehicles. And
Yeah,
the standard
yeah.
is now Tesla, but why is there movement towards a standardization of plug-in part of the system?
There hasn't been. And that maybe that's also part of the problem, because if I go to Conoco over at 30th and Baseline, it's no different from going somewhere on 28th Street. But you should have the same experience in your car or a bus if you need to charge, and it's not the same. Cars, I think, are a little bit more consistent across charging platforms. I know there are still some differences, because I've heard a story of a guy trying to drive across Ireland with an EV, with a Tesla, and running into problems at different charging stations because of the technology or the cabling.
It's the cabling and the connection.
Yeah.
He's on, will discourage you from getting a third-party adapter.
Yes,
For Tesla.
yes, yes.
I always thought for big trucks and big buses, you should just have a battery, a forklift comes in, takes it out and the sun's only out to charge things in the day when you want to be driving. So you just have 2 batteries
Right.
effectively. And the forklift just takes it out, puts it in the plug, and it sits on the plug for the day, and then you put another battery in it. That would be an extremely efficient, rather than having to plug the damn bus in.
Yes,
You just take the battery out and put it in. So
Yeah.
why haven't we seen that conversion that allows a really efficient way of managing? it?
yeah, I agree. I'm not enough of an expert in that part of the market to answer your question, but I agree with you that it seems like that would make more sense.
Yeah, because then they can be really big, forklift, I mean, it's not your car, you have.
Right.
Forklift, what kind of bus, they
Yep.
they can take that, and
Yep.
they were sound like the same thing.
But the hope is the hybrid world has been so wonderful. I don't have a hybrid, but I've got a Mazda 6. It's the sedan. It's 9 years old. It's got recharging, it's got a battery. It's got a, what is it, regenerative braking.
Yeah.
So
that
it's
works
putting-
beautiful.
It is amazing. I can get 45 miles to the gallon. It's not a hybrid though. But it's such great technology and it's so stable. So I think we're gonna get there with our buses. So I don't wanna, I'm not turning my back on that. I wanna go full ahead with this. Because I think it, our technology will get better. The batteries will become smaller. They can become more plug in, plug out and more adaptable like that. Yeah.
Now, other than Gillig, are there other manufacturers in the country here that are actually, developing electric buses?
I think the only one, Gillig's here and New Flyer in Canada. I think that's it.
So earlier in your presentation, you mentioned an RFP and you chose Proterra, but one of them was BYD.
Yes,
This is of course Chinese.
yes,
And in this current climate, it doesn't look like but they're the biggest, largest.
right.
E-vehicle manufacturer on the planet.
And we had, VIA and the city had chosen BYD for the first 3 buses. But it was when RTD started having problems with the mall buses that the city said, let's back out of that and we'll go with Proterra. You never, hindsight is wonderful.
Frank, is there a chance you can come back?
I would love to,
We would love
Yeah.
to have you come back because there are a lot of questions
Yeah.
that we have.
anytime,
And we haven't talked about how we're going to collaborate with you.
yes,
First of all, we thank you for sponsoring us.
thank you.
And there are a lot of things that we would like to do for the retired faculty, whether it might be going on excursions, et cetera. And we want to figure out how we can do that. And I'll mention that years ago, I organized the Culture Connection Trolley in Denver.
Yes,
And it only lasted 3 years because they charged the wrong amount, really. But I'm hoping that someday we'll have a circulator that we can connect all of the major museums, et cetera, in the Boulder area,
Yeah.
maybe in Denver or whatever.
that's great.
But it makes it so easy if it's just a circulator.
Yes,
Yeah, so anyway,
yeah,
if you have any questions, it's just that we have to be out.
yes,
of
no,
this
I
room.
understand. Thank you so much.
Otherwise, thank you.
Thank
so
you.
very, very much.